Hello everyone, welcome to Barca News. It is June 10th, 2026, and Hansi Flick has called up two more academy players for the preseason. Also, Manchester City already in a 70 million euro offer for Alejandro Balde. And finally, Marc Casado, more likely than not, to leave this summer transfer market. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Boo. Let's begin this video with the news that Hansi Flick has called up two more academy players for the preseason. Now, as you know by now from discussing in previous videos, the preseason is set to begin around July 13th, July 14th at the Ciudad Esportiva. Of course, there's going to be a lot of missing first team players due to the World Cup because after World Cup, these players have to begin their vacation, and with some of them beginning the vacation later than others, depending on how far they go in the World Cup. So, of course, Hansi Flick, unlike previous summers, he's going to need a lot more players to fill the preseason with. Now, of course, later in the month of July, the team will fly to England, to St. George's Park, in order to train. They're set to play two friendly matches there against second division teams, one behind closed doors, one open doors. And then it's expected that Barcelona could face off another friendly match against a big team. Initially, it was going to be Liverpool, but there's some health concerns in Kenya, so that's not going to happen. We'll see who will replace them. And of course, there is the Juan Gamper Trophy match. But nonetheless, we've talked about several players who have been called up to the preseason. The latest one, of course, being Patrick Kluivert, who we discussed during, Shane Kluivert, not Patrick Kluivert. I wish, right? Shane Kluivert, of course, we discussed that in yesterday's video. But now Hansi Flick has met with more players in order to call them up to the preseason. And the first one being is, of course, Hector Fort, the 19-year-old right back who spent last season on loan with Elche. He first arrived in Elche, and of course, he had a slow start to his loan because he had to, of course, adapt to his new team, new coach, new tactics, new teammates, etc., etc. Once his adaptation was over, he was absolutely flying. He was doing great. But unfortunately, an injury curtailed his advancement. He was out for several months. Then he came back from injury and was able to end the season on a good note. But despite missing a lot of months from his loan due to injury, Hansi Flick was happy with what he saw from Hector Fort on his loan with Elche. And he has spoken directly to the player and stated and asked him to join the preseason. So Hector Fort will be coming back from loan from Elche. He's currently on vacation, of course. But once his vacation is over, he will join Hansi Flick's preseason. And of course, we're going to have to wait and see what happens during the preseason, if he impresses or if he doesn't. Now, Barcelona do strongly believe that if Hector Fort lives up to the expectation that the club has of him, they believe he could be the competition that Jules Koundé has been needing to face this all this time. So let's hope that Hector Fort can live up to these expectations, that he can step up to the plate and, well, show us what he's got, because Jules Koundé needs some desperate competition, because we've seen how terrible his form was this past season. Now, another player that Hansi Flick met with and informed him that he will be calling up to the preseason is, of course, Ibrahim Diarra, the 19-year-old right winger, Malayan right winger that Barcelona signed as soon as he turned 18. Of course, Ibrahim Diarra came and did a trial at Barcelona. He blew the minds of all the coaches that watched him, and immediately Barcelona reached an agreement with him to join the club once he turns 18, because when he did his tryout, I think he was 17 years old, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 16. No, I'm pretty sure it was 17. But as soon as Ibrahim Diarra turned 18, Barcelona signed him, brought him over to Barca. Of course, at first, Ibrahim Diarra had a little bit of a slow start because he needed to, adapt to the new system, also get into competitive rhythm. Once his adaptation phase was over, Ibrahim Diarra did absolutely wonderful, was scoring goals, was impressing everybody. That impressive performance gained him a spot on Hansi Flick's preseason during last summer. But this is where misfortune struck, because Ibrahim Diarra was injured and ended up missing the preseason tour to Korea and Japan. He was out for several months. Then he came back, and as soon as he came back, boom, injury again. He had to undergo surgery. He was out for 5 months, came back from that injury and was able to end this last season on a good note. And despite missing most of last season due to injury, Hansi Flick, again, very interested, very impressed by this youngster. So he has called up Ibrahim Diarra to the preseason, where hopefully we'll get to see this young Malayan winger who we've been all wanting to see. Hopefully we'll see him shine. Hopefully he can stay healthy. And who knows, maybe he'll earn a spot on the first team. Now, on to that next bit of news, and this is huge news coming straight out of England, not straight out of Compton. But ladies and gentlemen, it's reported that Manchester City are readying a big offer for Alejandro Balde worth 70 million euros. Now, Manchester City are currently looking at the future. Of course, Pep Guardiola has just stepped down as their coach. There's also some players who will be leaving this summer. So Manchester City kind of looking to build a team for the future, and they're incredibly interested in Alejandro Balde. They're very impressed with his talent and, more importantly, with his potential and what he could end up becoming. And of course, with his experience, because he's had several seasons now of elite football experience. So Manchester City looking to make an offer for Alejandro Balde, and they're saying that could be worth 70 million euros. Now, of course, Balde does have a market value that's around 50 to 60 million euros. So the fact that City will be willing to offer 70 million euros, that's a clear statement that they are very interested in the player and that they want this signing to happen. Now, this offer has not been made yet. I want to clarify that. I want to make that point clear. That offer has not been made yet. In fact, Barcelona are unaware of any offers or any interest. This is just media outlets in England saying that Manchester City are preparing that offer because they're very, very impressed with Balde. Now, of course, Balde was untouchable for many, many seasons, but for the first time ever, as I reported in previous videos, Barcelona are now willing to hear in offers. This doesn't mean that Barcelona are placing Balde on the market or that they want to sell him now. This just means that if a big lucrative offer comes in, Barcelona would consider it, as opposed to previous seasons where if a big offer would come in, they would be like, I don't care how much it is. No, thank you. Balde is untouchable, right? That's no longer the case. And that, of course, has to do with the fact that Balde has had a pretty quiet season this past season. In fact, he ended up losing his spot to Joao Cancelo towards the end. So no longer untouchable. Doesn't mean he's for sale, but no longer untouchable. So if City do make a 70 million euro offer, Barcelona will consider it. Now, if Barcelona end up selling Balde for 70 million euros, of course, as I told you before, then the plan would turn to signing Marc Cucurella. Marc Cucurella is looking to leave Chelsea. Chelsea are okay with him leaving. It's reported that they would want around 40 million euros. So let's say City do make a 70 million euro offer. Barcelona would take that 70 million, pay 40 towards Cucurella, and then use that other 30 million for something else. And of course, that would mean that it would be Marco Correa and Joao Cancelo as our two left back. But of course, we first have to wait for the actual offer from Man City. That offer has not been made yet. And of course, we'd also have to see what Balde wants. So far, Balde has made it very clear that he wants to stay in Barcelona. Now, what's my opinion? I would not sell Balde. I know a lot of you are very disappointed with his season. I am too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not here to tell you that Balde had a wonderful season. Not at all. I think his season was also terrible. But let's not forget, Balde, he's only 22 years old. He has incredible potential. We've all seen what he's capable of because he's been amazing these past few seasons, except this last one. So we know what he's capable of. We know that he is good enough for Barcelona. Can you imagine what he will be once he reaches his full potential? Because again, he's only 22 years old. He hasn't even reached his full potential. And even at not reached his full potential, we've still seen how impressive he could be. So I would honestly give him another season. And if this next season he's still the same, then yes, absolutely. Push him out, sell him, do whatever you have to do. But for now, I would not sell him because, look, we're going to be in the same spot in a few years. Balde's going to go somewhere else. He's going to continue growing, developing. He's going to be an incredible left back. And then next thing you know, we're going to be looking to pay money to bring him back, just like we're doing with Cucurella right now. That just doesn't make sense to me. I would much rather keep Balde, give him another season, and then see what happens as opposed to selling him And I don't care if it's 60, 70, 80 million euros. I just would think it would be a mistake because, again, in 2, 3 seasons, we'll be back in this spot looking to spend money to bring him back, just like we would do with Cucurella if Balde ends up leaving. But anyway, so let's end today's video with the news that it's looking more and more likely that Marc Casado will be leaving the club during this summer transfer market. Of course, Casado has a big dilemma on his hand. On one hand, he wants to stay at the club. He wants to retire at Barcelona. As he's stated in the past, he loves this club with all his heart. He grew up here at the club. But on the other hand, he is 22 years old. He needs minutes so he can continue growing, development, and of course, playing. After all, that's what football players want to do, right? They want to play football. And right now at Barcelona, he's not getting the minutes that he needs. He's not getting to play football, which of course is what he wants to do. So on one hand, he wants to stay at Barca. On the other hand, he needs minutes, and at Barca, he's not gonna be getting them. So there's a big dilemma on Marc Casado's hands where he could go, or if he should go, I should say. And while it's looking more and more likely that Casado will be leaving this summer transfer market, it's reported by those close to the player that he's now leaning more towards leaving than staying, again, just because he needs minutes, not because he wants to, because at the end of the day, he would prefer to retire at Barcelona. Now, Casado does have many options. Saudi Arabia very interested in him, but Casado not looking to go there. There's some clubs in the Premier League, some clubs in the Bundesliga, all interested in him. But the latest club to ask or inquire about Marc Casado has been Real Betis. Now, Real Betis are looking to rebuild their midfield. They could be losing up to 3 midfielders during this summer transfer market. And of course, Real Betis would be a good destination for Marc Casado. For starters, very great relationships between Barcelona and Real Betis. Second of all, Real Betis have kind of like more of an attacking focus, something that Casado is used to, having come up through La Masia and having played on the first team. And of course, at Real Betis, they would be giving him an important role because it's reported by those close to Casado that what he's thinking about is going to a club where he would be important, where he would be getting minutes, right? He's not looking to go to a club where they're just going to pay him more money. That's not what he's interested in. He wants to go to a club where he would be important, where he would start, where he would get minutes so he can continue growing, developing. So Casado thinking more about it from the football aspect as opposed from the monetary one. So Real Betis right now looking like a really good option for Marc Casado. But of course, this won't happen until later because Real Betis first wants to focus on their exits. They're looking to offload players first. And then once that happens, they will look to bring players in, with Marc Casado being a very interesting option for them. Now, that is all the news for this video. Let me know what you guys thought about all the news that I just shared with you. I did go live a few moments ago, so if you haven't seen that video yet, make sure to check it out. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, and as always, peace, guys.